Hey, what's up, guys? Michael from Karate Breakdown, trying to bring back practical karate. Today, we're going to talk about kata, kind of like how it relates to art. So, one thing you're going to notice is that when you look at famous artists, you're going to see like their individual personalities come out, right? So, you have super realistic artists, you have the impressionistic style, you have like Renaissance style, but all these masters of the past, they have very distinctive styles in their art. But there's one common denominator in all of them is that they all learned the fundamentals before they broke free from them. And of course, you could tell this is a parallel to karate and kata, but I'll just keep going with the art thing first. You know, when you take your art class in middle school or high school, like Art 101, you're learning basic shapes, right? You're learning how to draw a rectangle, a circle, a square. You're learning about perspective. You're learning about how light hits a source and how it casts a shadow, right? So all these famous painters and stuff, they're learning the same fundamentals. They're learning how like a body parts work, how limbs attach to the body and perspective and proportions and stuff, and all these things that are the building blocks of art. And then once they master that or understand those fundamentals, they start adding in their own flavor to it. They start adding in their own personality to it. Now let's take a look at kata, right? Kata and karate. It's the exact same thing. And what happens is a lot of people, they don't go beyond the competency of just learning basics. And a lot of people don't even get to that point. So if you think about, everyone learns the same front stance, cat stance, horse stance. Everyone learns the same type of punch, kick, elbow, everything like that. And then the kata itself looks very basic and very formalized. It's very standardized. It's codified, so it could be easily passed down without any extra flavor to it or any personality to it. It's very rigid in that sense. And there's a reason, there's a method to it, right? Because if you teach somebody a kata and it's like specific to you and your nuances, then that person is going to learn both your preferences and also your fallacies, right? And that can also mean that they might be developing incorrect things too, right? They might be trying to emulate you and not creating something of their own. So making a kata that's very basic and very formal and very standardized kind of makes sense because you're trying to pass down the correct fundamentals over time through generations of students. Now, what happened in America and what happens, I see, like if you pull up a YouTube video of somebody doing kata at a tournament or something, it might look fancy. It might look like super elaborate and flowery and circular and all these things, and they might ki really loud. But a lot of times you can tell, and the untrained eye can tell, like it looks kind of funny, right? It looks like they haven't put in the hours for their fundamentals. Their punches aren't as sharp. They might be doing all these 100 move combinations, but every one of them looks kind of weak. Now you look at like a Shaolin monk, and I always look at back at that because I always see videos of like 4-year-old kids in a monastery doing horse dances for hours, right? You never see that over here in America. But when they do their advanced katas, when they do their performance stuff, it's just as flowery, it's just as elaborate. There's just as many combinations as a typical karate tournament kata, but it looks completely different. The Shaolin monk looks like every punch is powerful. There's a full body motion into it. And it's like you can tell, an untrained eye can tell and say, hey, that person looks pretty powerful. Um, this is not to say anything about the practicality. I know that untrained eye is more used to MMA, more used to Muay Thai or boxing. But even people like that can look at a monk doing a form and say, man, there's some power behind that. Even a martial artist who doesn't train that can see that. And it kind of goes back to like I always joke with my friends, like karate people, it kind of looks like they're pretending to be fighters, right? It's kind of look like LARPing. If you're training in something combative, then you need to look like something combative. And then it goes back to the artist, right? Only after you master the fundamentals and the basics are you able to start to break free objectively and start going outside of the lines and start adding in your own flavor, right? What happens with a lot of people in karate is like they want to fast track their way to that freedom, and they disregard the boring basics and the boring fundamentals, so that when they do go and make their katas look more abstract, it kind of it just looks weak. It looks, I mean, it looks, I mean, this is why karate is kind of like a laughing stock to the world, right? And then going back to the art stuff, right? When you look at artists nowadays, when they kind of do like the abstract stuff where they're like throwing paint at a canvas and calling that art, you can kind of tell, the untrained eye can kind of tell like that person probably didn't put in those thousands of hours learning about shapes and learning about shadow and texture and all this stuff. And it comes out in now, like people laugh at abstract art. So it's, you can see tons of parallels back and forth. The only thing with karate is that its foundation, it's meant for combat, so it's hard to give it a pass. I know within martial art there is art to it, which is subjectivity, and it really defines. It really depends on how you define what the art part of martial art is, right? It can be that flowery artistic type of thing. For me, the art side of martial arts is the beauty of combat, right? If you have like the story of a rags to riches fighter who came from the slums and worked his way up, and then now there's all this pressure on him to become a champion, and all his coaches are depending on him. He doesn't want to go back to a poor lifestyle. He he's put in all this work, and then on the other side of the cage facing him is another person who had the same story. And then if he's able to like create some feints, and he's able to overcome that insecurity, overcome the lack of confidence, and he gets that championship belt, like there's beauty in that story, right? There's beauty in the viciousness of the technique as well. And when I see a good kata, that's the art part for me personally. It might not be for the people watching this, it might not be for you, but for me the beauty is in the strategy, right? How many times can somebody faint and then actually get the KO, right? The beauty of the science of boxing, right? The head movements, the footwork, all the real things that are practical and combative is can be seen as very beautiful as well. Um, so yeah, I'll leave you at that. Some more food for thought. I'm probably gonna have some sparring footage in this video. So just to explain it, I had a dojo pre-COVID. I had this really cool student. I promoted him to brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He came in, trained with us. He had prior experience, did MMA, all that stuff. But he was such a nice guy. And then we closed the dojo down. We kind of lost track of him. I think he moved out of state. And then one day randomly on Instagram, I saw his post come back up, and I sent him a private message. And come to find out, he moved pretty close to me, close enough that we've been able to meet up a couple times. So, I told him I'll enjoy this. I'll enjoy this reunion as long as I can. Appreciate the time we have together. Hopefully, we get to train some more. I'm trying to get him to come to jiu-jitsu more often, to the classes I teach now. He's a brown belt, so hopefully I could bribe him to stay until I give him his black belt. So that'll give me a couple years to get some sparring in. So yeah, cool story. It's funny how things like that happen. Good things can come out of nowhere. So you just have to be appreciative of when they do come. So, all right, catch you guys on the next one. Train hard, fight easy.